It takes a village to lift you higher. We teach the way, feed the fire. It takes a village.
Welcome to another episode of the Village Podcast, where people help people. Today, I'm honored to invite my friend, somebody that I recently met that I think is doing great things here in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. My friend, my brother, Kendall, Lacey, man. Welcome to the show, man.
Man, honored to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Hey, look, so I got a question for you. So, like, I always ask, like, how are you doing? And the reason why I'm asking this is because you're a coach.
Yeah.
You're a husband. You're a father.
Yeah.
And it's rare when people get a chance to want to know, like, man, how are you doing, though?
Man, I'm making it.
Yeah.
You know, not too good, not too bad. I think with my job and my role and my life and all hats that I have to wear, you kind of got to learn to be even keel. You know, sometimes you can't get up, sometimes you can get really down. So just trying to stay in the level in between. You know what I mean? A lot of people depend on me, so I got to make sure I'm on point at all times.
Yeah, that's good. That's strong. And I think it's important for you to talk about that because, you know, regardless of how you feeling, there's some people that's depending on you anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't
get
get to ditch that responsibility of people depending on us, but we also need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves in the process of that. So yeah, that's good to hear, man. So tell me about your transition to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, man.
Yeah,
What was that like?
It was a whirlwind, and funny we talk about that because I think a couple of days ago made 1 year that I was officially hired. I got hired on February 11th.
Yeah.
What's today? 13th, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
A year and 2 days I've been here. It was kind of a whirlwind to say the least. I've been coaching for a while, so you know I was at a point where it was either be a head coach or I was probably gonna take a step back a little bit, and it worked out to where, you know, Hattiesburg gave me an opportunity, and it was funny because it was between Hattiesburg and another school, you know, and I said I wanted to be a head coach so bad. So, you know, two schools, I mean, both of them played for a state championship this year, so I think I'd have been pretty good either way.
Right.
Hattiesburg was just awesome in everything and how they treated me. The transition was well. Even the approach, you know, it was very professional. Getting me up here, they treated me really well. You know, when we just had a great relationship from the start. You know, many people, you know, wondered, you know, how did I get this job being from so far? But
Yeah.
and it was just off of a relationship that I built once I got here and met the people after my interview process or during my interview process, and it's been awesome. It hadn't always been good, but it hadn't nearly been bad as you would think. So it's been fun being here and embracing this town. Embracing the Hattiesburg community, which, you know, is a little different, and the fan base as well. But most importantly, you know, our kids, you know, we are really, really gelling with each other. And like I said, it was a little bumpy at first, but once we all kind of got on the same page, and we've been rocking and rolling for a while now. Yeah.
Hey, so look, man, if I could have been a comedian, I would have been. You mentioned something, and I want to talk about it, but I'm gonna shift to this when you say, you know, moving here, and I know you say the bumpy road. So how did your family embrace that? Because the reason why I'm asking is because, man, like I believe, like I'm a better version of myself, not because of what I do outside of my house, but because of the people that live with me. Okay. Like, so I'm a big family guy. Like I'll reject anything to make sure my family's straight. But when it comes to coaching, man, your family got to come with you. Your family got to transition with you. So it's not just you feeling these bumps. They in the middle too.
And, you know, with that, it was that was the hardest part. So it was in the middle of the school year when I got the job. So we didn't move wholesale till I think the end of July when everybody came. But I came in February. So, you know, trying to do two households, not really two households, but, you know, I'm living here, they're living there.
Yeah.
It was tough. Then the drive from where I came from in Valdosta, Georgia, is 6 hours, really 6.5. So,
wow.
You know, I told a story that I was going to drive back every weekend, but it ain't happen like that. So, man, it was tough. And you know, my wife would take flights. She would drive out here, you know, a week or two here during that phase. So I think that would be the hardest part. And, you know, when you're trying to figure out, that part of, where you going to live at, that was hard finding because when I was here, they got me an Airbnb where I stayed at for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But, it really wasn't home until everybody got here. So I think that was the hardest part, figuring those 4 or 5 months out, on my own. When you've been with someone for so long, it's kind of hard going back to, waking up by yourself.
Yeah.
That was new. But, we stayed focused and we knew that what I was stepping into was something that I've always wanted to do. So we all kind of, bit the bullet and made it work until we could get it in a good situation.
So how is everybody now? Like y'all all settled in?
We good. If I don't kill my daughter, she stressing me out a little bit, but it ain't bad. She's having those regular teenage bumps and bruises like everybody else has. So, but she's been doing well. Athletically, we getting it there academically. My wife works from home, so she's good. She don't do nothing every day. Nah, I'm just playing. She works really hard. But that was it. I got a little bit closer from my family back in Alabama, about 3.5 hours. So they get to see me. My mom and dad, who are a little older. I think they came to all of my games, maybe missed one. But, this is my first year as head coach, so it meant a lot to see them at every game. So it was good. It's been a good year for me.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Good deal. Hey, so look, man, like when we talk about leadership, one thing that I think inspired me about you is when you first got here, like you were in the community. Like KO had a giveaway, a give back, and you were there. Like you had just got here in February. So this is after school. KO, you didn't coach the kid. He's getting ready to graduate.
Yeah.
And you like out there in the middle of it with him. And then Coach Romanek calls me and said, hey, man, we want you to come speak. And the reason why I'm saying it was different for you getting in the community, and I think the leadership would inspire me because most coaches don't do that.
Yeah.
Like they'll wait for a while and try to bring their own way with them, try to do their own thing and try to run this thing, and I think they end up sinking the ship. Cool. But, like, tell me about the leadership part of that. Like, what made you get involved in the community? What made you want to reach out to people to get them involved in the program too?
I've been around a bunch of successful programs, so I understand that it's not really, it isn't really always, what you know. Sometimes it's who you know. So you gotta be able to touch the city, besides on a Friday night, because and to buy yourself some grace, because we ain't gonna always win every game. You got to make sure that you're involved in other aspects of the city to show that you're really invested. I think a lot of coaches make the mistake of saying, we're a family, we this, we that, all in, but you can't go to church in the city, or you can't live in the city, or you can't go to Walmart in the city, or people can't come talk to you in your office. I just took the approach of, I got an open door policy, but in order to make that work, I got to be there. Before I even took this job here the night before I got it, I went and watched a basketball game. Nobody knew. I was at a basketball game supporting Hattiesburg. Nobody knew who I was. You know what I mean? So I think you have to have that so people know that, my support isn't just, or my approach with them isn't just, I want you to give me some money, or I want you to come to the game on Friday. No, I want you to know that, hey, I'm going to be there if I can be, within reason, to show that I support you as well as I want you to support me. So
right.
That's just what I did. And, with everyone that I've met here, I won't ever speak on the last coach in a negative light, but I think that's the difference between me and him. He was very successful, and I know he had a bunch of good things that he did, but we're just different in that approach. I'm still young, so I can show up to a couple things. I can be at a park day in the hood. You know what I mean? That don't bother me. You know what I mean? And I think by doing that and establishing those relationships, people know that I'm more than just a football coach. You know what I mean? So if you trust me on the west side, or you trust me in the Gula, then you can trust me when your son comes to me to play football and he's got an issue that nobody can know about but me and him and you, and it's not going to be an issue. You know what I mean? If I have to be intense with your child, it's coming from a good place because you have a rapport with me. Hey, coach is hard, but he's fair. Yeah. So, and that's the approach I wanted to take. And the only way to do that is by establishing relationships. My college football coach, he preached relationships, and I've learned that, people are only going to give you, what they know about you. So, I have to open myself up, which sometimes isn't always easy. Yeah. But you have to make yourself available, and you got to go do those things in the community to get people to buy into you and your vision.
No, that's huge, man. I think it's like other coaches should take a page out of that book, right? Because if you're going to coach somebody's kid, it's like important for you to go and deal with the people where that child comes from, so that they can trust you. So whenever he's off with Coach Lacey, we know he's good. Now, whenever I talked about the comedian part, so listen, bro. Like, you know, I was at the, you know, I'm in the field house talking with y'all.
Yeah.
So I'm like, whenever I'm with somebody, I only got one way to be.
Yeah.
And bro, whenever y'all lost a game, and I start seeing that stuff on social media, bro, it started to bother me. I'm gonna just be real with you, because I be wanting to be the guy that's like go say. I be wanting to say something so bad, but I believe it's God said, "Kendale, don't even address it," because you know they talk about the Dollar General. Y'all got y'all coach from this and that, and then when you start winning, you get back to the state championship. People don't say nothing. They quiet.
Yeah.
So my question is, and I'm saying this may help a lot of coaches. How do you deal with the noise that comes from these unrealistic expectations of these, I call them coaches in the stands?
Yeah. Man, I'd be a liar if I said I don't see it. You know what I mean? And some of the stuff, I think, you know, you kind of gotta, you have to place your emotions to the side, because every community, if you look at the crown jewels of communities, most of them is their high school football team. Now, we're the doorstep athletics. You know, I make that post all the time. Athletics are the doorstep for most school districts. So, and we know football is usually the biggest sport of most of those districts. So I understand. And with me being an outsider, you know, from the day I got hired, I saw the post. You know what I mean? You know, who is this guy? And I get it. You know, I know certain people wanted different people to get the job. You know, hometown guys that just didn't get it. You know, it landed in my court. So that's a part of it. So, you know, when you are dealing with people and their kids and high school football, especially at a place like Hattiesburg, you know, emotions are always high.
Yeah.
It don't matter if I'm out there playing in a spring game against a 2A team and we're losing at halftime, you know, the game don't even count. Or if I'm out there just doing a scrimmage and little Ray don't get but 5 reps. I know somebody is watching. And it it used to really bother me, and I'm not gonna say bother me as far as, you know, what they said. What they say don't really matter, because, you know, the people who make these posts got all this stuff to say, man, they ain't writing no checks. You know what I mean? Now, if you're a financial donor, you know, I can listen and, you know, understand. But at the end of the day, the decisions I make or the posts that you make and you question stuff that I do, I'm with these kids 24/7, each and every day. So I understand that, you know, a football game, that's just what we do on Friday. You know what I mean? I've been places where even here in my year, in a week I sat with a kid who had to deal with a gunshot. You know, I'm not gonna say how he got it, but he dealt with a gunshot. I've dealt with kids who lost a parent. I've dealt with kids who finding out their parents are going to jail for 15 plus years in a blink of an eye, and I have to be mentally strong to support those kids each and every day. So you can't base successes off of what a kid does for 4 to 8 minutes on a Friday night. So it hurts at times to see what they say, but I don't care about the football part of it. You know what I mean? And only thing that I would say really, you know, would frustrate me, and I don't respond. I get it. Don't attack me personally. Like, you know, a couple people made a couple posts. Again, I'm still young, so I'm on Facebook now. I'm on Instagram. Whatever you got, I got. You know what I mean? Minus TikTok. I ain't a TikToker.
Right.
But so I see the stuff you say, and it doesn't bother me if you say I can't coach. You know what I mean? Hey, cool. You know what I mean? Hey, whatever. But I don't like it when you make it personal. You know, you say, you know, he's this or he's that as a man. Now that bothers me. But you know, I get it. Whenever emotions are involved, people gonna say things like that. So it's hard to be mad at them. You know, but as long as you come into the game, you paying your $8 to watch me, you can post what you want to post. You know what I mean? I appreciate that. But I think at any coach, you know, you have to be able to separate your feelings, because what people say when they're upset, you know, usually those posts that get made within the next, I always look at it, they're made by midnight of that night. We all know, you know, as adults, our initial response, that's the difference between a good and a bad, you know, a bad person per se. Your initial response is always going to be emotionally driven. But we all have been adults and we've reacted one way to a situation, but the next day or 24 hours later, we're like, man, I was tripping. You know what I mean? You know, I should have did this. Or I should. So, you know, I get it. You know, everybody's emotional after a game. Even us as coaches, we're emotional. But I know that I have to make sure that I don't get caught up in that hoopla because, again, people are watching. You know what I mean? They might not ever admit it, but, you know, if I make a post today and it say, the Star Spangled Banner, it'd be 50 people commenting, what you mean, Coach? You going to sing? You going to do, you know, so you have to make sure that you hold yourself to a higher standard. You don't get caught up in it. And you let people say what they're going to say, but as long as you know as a coach, you did everything possible. You know what I mean? You did every single thing possible, which is why I sleep good at night, knowing that, hey, man, I prepared for this game. We worked hard all week. We practiced all week. I didn't cheat the game. If we lose, we lose. You know what I mean? That doesn't bother me. I can live with a loss because I know how we prepare. So, you know, that's my approach. You know, stay out social media if you can as a young coach, especially if you're one that like to talk, because it'll get you in some situations you can't get out of.
So, man, look, I think it's strong, man, like everything you said. And then when you talk about the personal side, like that's the part that's tough for me, you know, because for one, you don't even give them a chance.
Yeah.
You know, you lose one game.
Yeah,
and then the other side of it is, man, this dude got a wife and he got a daughter. And like, it's like we just don't care.
Yeah.
We say, and I'd be like, man, where do we get off to where you don't think what you're saying affects other people, not just him? Like, your wife got to see that.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Your daughter got to see that. Your daughter got to go to school around this type of stuff. And that's the type of stuff that I'm always sensitive to when it comes to coaches. That's why, like, when I say I'm riding with you, I'm riding with you. And I almost be like, because I don't get back and forth. I don't go with back and forth either. I just be like, man, y'all really don't know what y'all talking about.
Yeah.
Y'all show up on a Friday night hoping to see a win. This is the highlight of your week. And they got people that's sacrificing and suffering with your kids. And these are the type of the things that you'll say about these coaches in a heated moment.
It's all
right?
And you know, it's tough because, man, you know, I know what even my coaches go through. But I have to know, man, my actions affect everybody. I got coaches that have moved here from miles and hours away. Mm-hmm. So if I make one false move, now their families are affected. Not only my family, now that people who've picked up their kids, picked up their wives, picked up their girlfriends and brought them down here to this area. If I make a mistake, now they are jobless because, you know, everything's attached to me. I'm not naive to that. I know, hey, these guys have put their trust in me. So now I would uproot not only my family, now I'm uprooting their family. Mm-hmm. All because, hey, I'm mad what you said on Facebook. I go in there, I curse at you on Facebook, or I, you know, cuss you out in the public, all because of a game. And again, I make a lot of money to deal with this game. I understand that, but it's a game at the end of the day. Now, it matters a lot to a lot of people, including myself. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when that clock hits zero, the game's over. We start over. Now I'm being a father figure. I'm being a head coach. I'm being a teacher. Being a leader of men. Not only young men, I'm leading adult men who have to follow me each and every day and make sure that they're aligned with me. I'm aligned with them to make sure they can reach their goals as well. So look, talk to me about your family from a perspective of, like, how do they deal with that, the pressure of it? Like, I'm and you know, I'm married too, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I got kids, and I know, like, my wife, her and I have had conversations because when you're in the public light, for lack of a better term, like, people have stuff to say. And so my wife has seen some stuff in the past that people have said. And my response has always been, man, look, them people don't know us. Yeah. Like, don't get into that. But how do you navigate that space? I think you have to, you know, you notice it, you make note of it, but you got to let it go. You know what I mean? And I have to fuss my wife sometimes about, you know, she won't comment directly, but she'll say stuff indirect. You know what I mean? You know how women are. You know, she'll get you on the side. She'll sidebar you. And, you know, just, you know, and she understands that, you know, even stuff that she posts is a reflection of me. You know what I mean? So sometimes I have to fuss. You know, it didn't really nothing egregious, but, you know, some people might see it in the wrong light. Then now I got to answer to it. So you know, so we've gotten to a place to where we understand that that's a part of it, and you know, and I hate that because most of it's all on social media. It's social media is such a platform now that can be used in the wrong way if you allow it to be. So we've done a good job of just understanding that and making sure that we don't get involved in it. You know what I mean? People can say what they say, but end of the day, as long as my bosses ain't on there talking about me. Now, if you see Dr. Williams, Mr. Grubbs, or, you know, Mr. Brown make a post about me, then you got a problem. Make sure you send me that because now I'm a little nervous. But as long as those guys are good and we're very aligned. As long as they ain't on there talking bad about, man, it really don't matter to me.
I got you. I got you. So look, man, you talked about the kids, mentoring them, helping them. And this is why I'm always partial to athletics and coaches, because I don't think it's just about the game. Like, I know these kids need to see some of them, when kids come to school, when kids on that football field, this is probably the highlight of their life too.
It is, yep.
So how do you navigate that space from mentorship and trying to help these young kids be men? Because we all have a desire to go pro, but the truth is the numbers show that we all won't go. But we can be successful men. We can be productive people in society. So what is your approach on mentoring, leadership, and helping young people develop on and off the field?
I think you just got to be the father figure for them, you know. And I hate to use that because it's not the best situation knowing that so many of our kids come from single parent homes. But I knew what I signed up for when I took the job. So with that, I like to create a plan for all of our students. Like we like to do the whole child development. It's just something I came up with. So I need to know your grades. Our kids will tell you, man, we do a study hall once a week during the season for an hour. If you have anything below a C, I'm going to punish. I don't want to use the word punish. I'm going to work to correct it in my own way.
Yeah.
And even off the field, you know, our kids, I have to tell them, you know, as a young black male, you can't walk around with a ski mask on all day. You know what I mean? Just because of what comes with it. Or, you know, we talk about we don't wear ski masks in the building. We don't wear hoods in the building. I don't care what anybody in the school does. If you're going to represent Hattiesburg football, you're not going to look that way. We're going to carry ourselves in a certain manner to where, you know, when people see us in the community, they can say, hey, look, I know that kid played for Hattiesburg. You know what I mean? He's going to have the grades. And I've always thought about this as a male growing up, especially African-American male. We've seen these high school superstars to say, you know, per se, that have rushed for 100 touchdowns, thrown for 200 touchdowns, but when it's time for graduation in May, they senior year, they ain't nowhere to be found. Or when it's time for signing day, you know, they in the back hiding because they did everything but what was important. You know, no matter who you are, and my high school coach taught me this, it didn't matter who you are, your clock with football expires. It's like death. You know what I mean? It's going to happen regardless. You're not going to play this game forever. And you need to have something set up to where that when you get done with football, you have another path. You know, he always would preach, you know, use football, don't let football use you. So, you know, I had to kind of understand that because, again, I'm like every other kid that grew up playing football. I knew I was going to the NFL, or I knew I was going to play pro baseball. I was a really good baseball player growing up as well. But, you know, when it didn't happen, I had to know I had something else, you know, lined up. And my avenue was coaching. But I think a lot of times our kids invest so much, and I get it. You know, you have to put in a lot of this game or in this game to be successful. Wherever you're playing at, you got to do a lot. But I think they put so much into it that if the pros doesn't work, they don't know what to do next. And I think that is when you lose your kids to the streets, or you lose them to now all of a sudden they're drug dealers or they're rappers. Nothing wrong with being a rapper. Do your thing. But I think that is when, you know, the initial shock, once you don't reach the goal you wanted to, that's where we lose them. You know what I mean? Because now the structure that football provided, they don't have anymore. So if they didn't have a plan set up where they know, hey, look, I'm playing football in college. I know when I'm done, I'm going to go be an engineer. Or I know I'm going to be a teacher. Or I know whatever it is you want to do. I'm going to be a truck driver. If you don't have that lined up, that idle mind, the idle time that you would have where you're at practice or you're with your coaches, that is where we lose so many of these kids to the streets. I ain't even use that term, but we lose them to doing the wrong thing. Yeah. So I like to make sure that our kids have a plan, and all of our athletes, you know, the seniors especially. I know everybody's not going D1. I don't have a million Tristan Keys. I mean, yeah, I know that, and it ain't no secret, and I want my parents to understand that as well. Every kid is not going to have that path. Some kids going to be a Cam Newsom, who has a 4.9 GPA, who I know is going to go to college for free. He's going to be an engineer, and he's going to have a path. And, you know, I have to make sure that I treat him and his path the same way I treat Tristan, who's going to play on Saturdays, and if God willing, he's going to play on Sundays. That's it. So you got to make sure that each kid have a plan. I meet with them all individually once the season over with. Show me what you're doing. Show me your plan. Okay, you want to do this? Let's make sure your GPA matches to get you in this college. Let's make sure that if you're going to the military, I got to make sure your ASVAB is matched up. It's where you ain't got to go in and be on the gun line day one. You can be a smart person and be in the military and allow the military to work for you as well. So I think that's where we have to be successful as coaches in doing that as well. I can't use you every Friday night and then when it's all said and done, all I got is I appreciate you. Best of luck. I can't do that. My kids have to know that when it's over with, like I talk to my former players all the time. I stay on them. I coach them like they on my team still because I owe that to them. If they're gonna give themselves to me, you're gonna do everything I ask. You're gonna do all this work. You're gonna be out here in this hot sun every day. How it's unfair for me to just say after that clock hit 0 in the state championship game, I don't know you no more. Or hey, best of luck. Right. So you gotta take control of that as a head coach to where your kids and your parents know, man, we're working on developing strong men, not just strong student athletes. I'm working on developing strong student athletes and strong men to be successful in the next phase of their lives. So whenever you talk about we lose them after they're done playing, like, do you think? Because what I've learned is that sometimes our identity is associated with a sport. Of course, 100%. Most males are that play. Yeah. And
so whenever that don't go like we want it to go, we're losing ourselves because, one, we never knew who we were. Mm-hmm. We played the game. We were not the game. And I teach this to my 11-year-old son now. But, like, when you talk about you didn't go pro in baseball or football, like, how did you navigate it? Like, did you have people in your life letting you know that clock, you say the coach, but I'm saying your parents, other people have to be in your corner letting you know? Because I think what I've seen happen so much in our community is that not just the kid identity is wrapped up in it, the people that are pulling for him.
Yeah, of course.
The people that are around him, right? You see a kid that look like he got promised, everybody jump on him.
Yeah.
And they grab hold to him and try to ride that coattail. And so now not only is the kid feeling pressure, but man, these other people that's putting other pressure on them to make it. And they put all their eggs in that basket.
Yeah, and I think that's unfair. You expect these kids from Little League to the time they become 18 years old to be a superhero. And that's a lot of pressure. Even with the 5-star I had, we've had moments to where he'll straight up tell you, man, coach, everybody depending on me. And that's unfair. You know what I mean? It breaks my heart to hear him say that sometimes. But I understand it, but it's still unfair. And, I think we've got to do a better job of making our young men more well-rounded. And I've tried to do that to where, they don't think that if I don't make it to the NFL, I'm a failure. That's not true. And I knew with my life, hey, man, my coaches always told me that if this doesn't work out as smart as I was, I could be a coach. So I kind of knew. My mom was an educator. My dad's a military man, worked in the prison system for a long time as well. I knew I had other avenues. I knew I was going to at least have a degree to figure out what I wanted to do. So that was, my approach to it. And I used football to that I literally had nothing else. I couldn't go to another practice. I used all my eligibility. I did everything. I mean, to the T. And it worked out for me because those same people that I gave myself to their team and working for their team are the same men that helped me get into the business, that gave me a couple jobs that I needed, and make sure I was connected to the right people to be where I am today. So, and that's the type of network and that's the type of thing I'm trying to build with my players. You get so wrapped up in this sport. It don't matter what it is. And like you said, it becomes your identity, and our team kind of becomes your family. So when you lose that, because, football is one of those things, man, and I used to talk to our kids about this during the season. No matter what, it's over after this year, because the room has to change. We knew whether we won that last game or not, the room would never look the same. So I would always preach that to them, you know what I mean? Because you've got to be prepared for what's next, you know what I mean? Even in our coaches, I'm not going to have the same coaching staff. People come and go. But, if you get too tied up in it, it'll be all, and then once you lose that team aspect, now you're looking for it again. So what the first thing you're gonna run to. You're gonna run to a game. You know what I mean? Because that's the only thing close to a football family or a baseball family is someone that you're with all day. You're working together. You're pushing for a common goal. Whether that be wrong, right or wrong. So that's where you have to make sure that you can find that and that you're prepared mentally to know, hey, this switch ends or this phase of my life ends, but I have other things to look forward to. I have the opportunity to be a father to look forward to. I have the opportunity to support my community as a strong man, which, you know, we need more and more of them each day because of temptations and the negative things that our kids can get into. They grow significantly each day. So you have to make sure that, you know, you're building up people and young men to where they don't get caught up and they don't confuse once it's over with to running to that as the same thing. You know what I mean? They got to know there's a difference. Hey, life's not over. You're not a failure. You can move forward and be just fine by being you. You know what I mean? A lot of those behaviors are taught, and I'm working hard to fight against them every day.
Yeah, no, man. I think you're doing a good job from a perspective of like being a visionary to see that, right? Because sometimes I believe coaches only care about what that kid can do for them on the field. But after this is over, that kid still needs support, still needs somebody to be there. That's why I tell the kids, I'm down at FCA all the time at PRCC, hey, man, you play this game, you're not the game.
Yep.
Right? One day you're going to stop playing this game, whatever game that is. And you need to know, for one, you need to have a relationship with God so that you understand who you are and then what it is that you value and that you want to do with life. And I'm saying as coaches, I think that's important because, man, some kids don't even have a desire to go pro.
Yeah. Some of them just have to be on the team. Now you got. That's why I say, you know, every kid is different, and I use this in our program all the time. You know, we're not gonna treat them all the same, but we're gonna treat them all fair. You know what I mean? Your fair might be, you know, you come from a 2-parent home, you got 2 and 3 cars, you drive one new car every day to practice. So you being late for an 8 o'clock meeting, I'm gonna handle you differently. I'm gonna handle that kid who single parent home. Mama goes to work at 8. She got to get you, your brother, so-and-so situated every morning. I'm going to handle you differently if he walks in late because I know what that kid had to go through because he probably walked up here if he, you know, because some kids are ashamed of the situation. So he probably walked just to get here. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to handle him the same way I handle you. You know what I mean? Or I got kids who are just straight up tell me, Coach, I ain't ate in 2 days. Okay, I know I got to do something for you.
Wow.
You know, whether the kid, I know he got a bankroll in his car. He just didn't want to eat. You know, he's doing his own thing, or he wanted to eat hot chips and Doritos instead of taking care of his body. So you have to understand that. You know, that's what comes with learning your kid. That's why you can't just be coach. I got to know what you're doing. You know, I mean, hey, you know, what's going on in your life? You know, I've been in a situation where, you know, a kid wasn't taking a shower. I'm like, man, why you ain't taking a shower? You know, I don't want to take no bath today. You know what I mean? But we had practice in the morning. So, you know, you go, you know, well, man, let's talk. You find out, you know, the kid's at home by himself. Him, 3 siblings. He's in 9th grade as a 14-year-old. He's got 3 siblings younger than him. No running water in the house for 3 weeks. Mama's gone. It's just him. No adults. He's living by himself. And if you don't know that kid personally, you're never going to catch that. You're just going to think, oh, he just, you know, he being weird today. Yeah. But if you don't develop and cultivate these relationships, some of these kids, they're crying out for help, but they don't know how to say it. So if you can't read them or they're too prideful to say it. So if you can't read them and learn that, then, you know, you're going to miss the mark on a couple of these kids, and that's not good for anybody.
Man, that's huge. So look, and you might not want to talk about it because I got a partner of mine that they lost a state championship game, and still to this day, he don't like talking about it.
Yeah.
They played for Pedal. Okay. I ain't even gonna call his name, but if he see this, he gonna know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Because I mentioned the state championship game to him, and man, he like got fighting mad and he grown.
Yeah.
So I'm saying in that game, in that moment, I mean, it's over. What are your thoughts about the first season?
Man, just to, you know, I look at, you know, like we talked about from now or from this time last year until now, man, I got here, and I'm not saying these guys turned their back on me, but, you know, a lot of people left the program, you know what I mean, because, you know, certain things happen or, you know, they had better opportunities. Hey, that ain't none of my business. You want to better yourself as a man. I ain't your daddy, you know, do your thing. But there was a time, man, to where it was me, 100 kids, and 2 other coaches, so 3 coaches. And, you know, it was some rough days trying to figure out where we were going to go. So even going into our spring game, you know, we had coaches quit the week of the spring game, trying to piece together a staff, you know, just because I was new to the area, I was new to Mississippi. You know, a lot of my partners that I coached with, you know, you always have your buddies, you know, hey, if I get a job for him, you know, course, that didn't happen. It just didn't work. And for whatever reason it may be, I understand, sometimes financial was different. So if you look at our team, the day we walked out on the field against Heidelberg, we had a piece together team. We were just trying to figure each other out. It was my first game as a head coach. And I tell people all the time, you don't know what you're doing until you actually sit in the chair.
Yeah.
I thought I was Nick Saban before I actually got the job. and now that I have it,
you're right.
I understand that
right.
I was so far off of knowing what goes into being a head coach or goes into running a program, running a team. It's more stuff off the field than it is the actual football part of it. The football is just when I really get to be who I am, but I got to wear so many other hats that I really lose sight of that hat sometimes. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a strong support system, which is why we struggled at first, with me getting those guys in, and now that I have my staff completely rounded up, and we didn't get it together all the way up until probably 2 weeks before the first game when I hired my last coach. That's how bad it was. Just getting guys here that were bought into the vision. And my school district was great with helping me. I'm a little different, so it was hard for us, filling each other out, especially when the guy before me had been here 12 years. So that's a decade of one thing. That's 2 and 3 generations of people coming through that high school. So me being new and my approach to things is a little different. I'm a little bit more. I don't want to use the word in your face, but I'm more aggressive in my approach, and it was just a culture shock for us all. So those first couple games, we won spring game, or we won the Jamboree. Of course, we lost. I ain't gonna use the word lost. We weren't up at the end of the third quarter in our spring game, so it was a lot of, first year coach. He lost his first 2 games. What I mean? Yeah. So even going to Laurel, my first win, just hectic. You know what I mean? Just even getting there was hectic. You got a lot of things going wrong off the field. A kid got suspended that we had put our game plan around. He gets suspended on like the third play of the game, throws a punch, who was the quarterback during the summer, just all kind of stuff. But we reached a point after that Oak Grove game, and this is credit to my staff, this is credit to my kids. We just said, enough's enough. You know what I mean? Everybody's here now, and nobody's coming to save us. All the kids from the year before that went D1, they ain't coming back. Tristan's hurt. Ain't no secret. You know what I mean? He ain't playing for a couple more games. Are we going to let our season fall apart? Or we going to all say, no matter what, whatever it takes, we're going to figure out a way to win. I don't care if we got to go out here and play small ball. Everybody got to go both ways. Whatever it takes, we're going to win the football game moving forward. So after that Oak Grove game, which was humbling, it was a big game at home, and we lost. And we lost in a very bad fashion. We walked in that locker room. Nobody cried. They looked at me, and I knew I had them then, because up until that point, they weren't sure. You know what I mean? They were like, well, new coach, we're gonna do some of the stuff he said. We're gonna do everything. And I think they kind of realized if they didn't listen to me, we're gonna get embarrassed every week moving forward. So, because I wasn't gonna change. I know my approach to football. And where I've been and where I coach, the approach works. So you either got to get with it or it just ain't going to, you got to get going. Yeah. So we bought in after that, man, and we went on a run for the ages. We made a change at quarterback. We bought into a kid, goes to our church, Gavin Duxworth, who probably won't say 10 words in 10 minutes. But, we just put the team on his back, and our kids across the board, from the worst player to the best player, they bought in. We practiced different moving forward. Everybody was bought in. We had physical practices, and it carried us to a state championship game. And our seniors, they started to believe in me. It's hard playing for a guy from 7th grade or being in his program from 7th grade to February of your upcoming senior year, and now you got to change. So they bought in. We all said enough's enough. I met with them as a senior group, and just straight up told them, you guys buy in and we'll be fine. If you don't, our season be over with in 6 weeks. And your senior year will be remembered as a group that went 4-6, 2-6, whatever, or 2-8, where we were going to go. And we just bought in. Our coaches put in more. We demanded more from each other. And it just worked. And when it came to the state championship game, and people look at the final score, and, it is what it is, what happened in the fourth quarter. But it was 28-28 going to the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing that with a team that had 3 returning starters on defense and 3 returning starters on offense. Mm-hmm. And I took a team that lost to a 2A team in a spring game, that lost 50 points to a Pedal team, gave up 50 points again to an Oak Grove team that people had us picked before the season started to go 2-8. I took that group of young boys, young men who had never played on varsity until that first game. I took them to 12 minutes away from winning a state championship. And that's not, to tip my own hat or anything. It's a tip my hat to my players, tip my hat to my coaches, because they bought in. When people talked about us, like you said, I see it. I don't say nothing, but I see it. When people dogged us on Facebook, I see the Dollar General comments. Yeah. I see the Netflix comments. Yeah. When you say that, and it's not to make you feel good. It's to show you that, our kids are resilient. They're going to protect me too. You know what I mean? We care a lot. They care a lot. So it just shows, the type of fight that they have, because we were down on the mat for a while. They counted to 9, but they didn't make it to 10.
Yes, sir.
So, and we fought back and we got to that. And now it's put even more hunger in us, because now we've lost 2 state championships in a row. And, I wasn't here for the first one, but I feel like I was, because I carried that burden all year long. So now, if you saw us in the weight room, if you saw how we worked, not saying that we weren't working before, but it's even more now, because 3 strikes you out. So we on strike number 2 right now. So we're going to do everything in our power. In our districts, doing everything. Our superintendent, my AD, my principals, all the principals in the district that allow my coaches to work at their different schools, they are all bought in. And before I leave this city, I'm going to get me one. I don't care if I got to go coach girls flag football. I'm going to get me one. So we're going to figure it out. And that's been our motto so far this offseason, man. We do everything in ways of 12, because, we're 12 minutes away from winning. And, ball bounced our way a couple times in that game alone. I'm wearing a different ring on my hand right now. So I understand that football is a game. So, you can't pray your way out of it. You can't, do all that. But we're going to work to where that when we come back out in the fall, it's going to be the same show. We're going to make sure that we do whatever it takes to get to that last game and hope it works in our favor this time.
So look, man, we're at time, but I want to say this, because I got a chance to look at the start. Coming in, speaking to the team, and as a man, I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit, because we know that the needle keeps moving. There's the next thing. But my encouragement to you is, man, you did one heck of a job in year 1. And regardless of what the outcome was, I hope you know that, like, deep down, and it's not something facetious that you say just to be like, okay, yeah, we did well, but we coming back. Like, bro, that was a lot. We talked about moving here. We talked about your wife living 6 hours away, your daughter being gone, having to transition here. Man, that's a lot of stuff that don't have nothing to do with football. And for you to handle it with the grace you handle it with, for you to be still sitting here talking about you ready for another year, that type of stuff breaks people down and make them get back. Man, I'm out of here. I ain't coming back, right? Yeah. So from me, man, I'm just saying I appreciate you, and I appreciate the example that you set, being more than football for these kids, man. I appreciate you, big dog.
Man, I appreciate the city for having me, man. Thank you so much. That really means a lot.
Yeah, you're right. Well, look, that wraps up another episode of the Village Podcast, where people help people. Don't forget to subscribe to the show.
It takes a village.